at all. He's just moving the black king.
Would you have some fun if you were Ding and just move your king, like, first of all, to the left
Zigzag
and then move it to the right and then, you know, push a pawn?
We just move the white king to one corner and then the other corner.
Maybe you could break that record, right? Just 200 and...
David would love this position so much. he would move every piece and get to move 49, and then he'd play this move.
We have a pawn.
You know?
We have a pawn move.
All right.
He could, yeah. I mean, I can see David literally playing 49 moves, because after 50 moves, it's a draw if you don't make a pawn move. Playing this move, waiting another 49 moves, playing A3, another 49, going A4. I could just, you know, and Magnus just moving the king backwards and forwards.
Yeah, so I'm disappointed Ding did push this pawn. As Simon mentioned, you could wait 49 moves, push this one, 49 moves later, push this pawn, 49 moves later, push this one, 49 moves later, push this one, and we'd easily get to move 300. But Ding actually has a specific idea in mind. By pushing this pawn forward, he's protected his stronghold in the centre. This is a nice pawn chain now, and look at what's happened. After Magnus moved his king, the white bishop has actually found a great diagonal. I'm not sure what it's doing. It's hitting thin air, but it does control a lot of squares, takes away those squares from black's pieces. So, meanwhile, Magnus continues to wait. Ding is continuing to play with his king. At some point, remember, he's going to maybe move this bishop out the way. Maybe even now, he's in this position, he's going to move his bishop out the way, move the rook to the centre, somehow support his pawns and start pushing these guys forward. Takes a long, long time to arrange, but he's got all the time in the world. On the board, at least. On the clock, he's down 10 minutes almost, but here he's just moving the white king back and forth to gain a few seconds every turn.
Right. I did wonder whether Magnus could get ambitious, you know, and say, well, you know, you did, like, push the f-pawn and therefore maybe allow me some opportunity to kind of break open the centre. But, OK, this involves moving the bishop out of the way.
For example, in the current position, or something like this, and then trying to push this pawn to open up the black rooks.
Threaten it.
I mean, it would be very brave for Magnus to do this. He's shown no indication of trying to do of trying to win this game.
I think the problem with this is maybe the bishop hits the rook and then you're committed to moving that pawn maybe at some point, are you? I mean, I guess you could move the rook, but it's a little bit risky, isn't it?
For example, if you push this pawn, blocking your own bishop in the corner, white can just happily retreat at some point, and, yeah, this is a dead piece. So, maybe possible, but it comes with a risk. I think that's why Magnus said, no more risk, just clear plan. He can almost pre-move.
Do you reckon he has pre-moved the next 50 moves? And he's just gone to make himself a cup of tea or something. He's just literally, you know, pre-moved, right, 50 moves in a row, I'll just go and have a, you know, like, you can't do that.
There's some danger, though, because it could
change.
It could be bishop takes knight.
Bishop takes knight, yeah. Then it'd be like,
oh dear.
And I've seen David, that happened to David enough times sitting next to him in bullet chess, you know, so, yeah.
Few moves going wrong. Well, Ding Loren, he is fighting for the win, and he is ready for the candidates. We've talked about that. Candidates will start mid-June. And there is a story on chess24.com. Ding's thoughts on eventually making it to the candidates, becoming world #2 and playing those 30 games that he had to play to qualify. And you can read that story. Apparently he has booked his ticket to Madrid, where the candidates will be played.
Has Magnus's camera frozen?
Oh.
A few moments ago, just before Ding moved, Magnus had the exact amount of time he started the game with. So on move 42, Magnus still had over 15 minutes, but...
Maybe frozen, yeah. So
okay.
Well, he's gone for Jovanka's idea. So,
no, but that was just... I wasn't really being that serious. You know?
Well, you're going to have to go with it now. So, I mean, I was actually thinking, like, I'm probably not David, but if it was me or you, Vanka, and Magnus was playing black against us, just because David's a lot higher.
Well,
and he's gone for it.
He's gone for it. Well,
wow.
Why is this so wow?
Because he could have just moved the king backwards and forwards, but you know, this is Magnus saying, "Hey, I'm going to take risks."
Is he going to try to win this game as well?
No, yeah, but he might even be trying to.
He might be worsening his position in the process. Look at this black rook; it's actually lacking squares. You've got to be really careful now as black.
I mean, yeah, it's nearly trapped, that rook, isn't it? So it's quite risky, this play.
I mean, it's just inconsistent, right? He spent 15 moves just king back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, doing nothing, and then suddenly, maybe he's looking at Ding's clock time. Maybe he's realising, OK, this is the moment to go for it. Ding is down under 4 minutes. Magnus almost at 15. So 11 extra minutes on the clock. Maybe he thinks Magnus, even if things go wrong, he's still pretty solid. He can still calculate his way out of trouble. And Yeah, I mean, things are about to open up. Maybe we can jump in to show why Magnus is playing for the win, how he's playing for the win. It was all about pushing this pawn forward. The idea is to crack open a line for the rooks, but I don't really know what he's doing for the with those black rooks. For example, if white takes this pawn, it looks like the black rook can come down and give a check, but it's just one check. The white king can step back and suddenly you've lost a pawn and the black king is a bit open. For example, pawn takes pawn and white will recapture. Two good bishops, white's rook as well, are ready to swing across and attack the black king.
And look at the h-pawn. I mean, this is one of those cases where you see you put the pawn on this square, you get it all the way up there. It might not seem obvious what it's doing, but then, you know, as soon as the position opens up, it suffocates your opponent's king. And pawn takes pawn looks like a really good move to me, because you've got the bishops, you want to open them up, and he can still play it after this move.
Next move. White's bishop dropping back, hitting the black rook, and if we see the black rook retreat, then I think Ding would be very tempted to capture this pawn, as we just showed. But the question is, does Magnus have the time to play pawn takes pawn here, giving up some material? But after bishop takes rook, I mean, there's no time to flick in a check, unfortunately. But for example, if black captures this piece back, we could see a situation where black will try and set up a barricade on the dark squares. White only has this kind of poor, blocked-in light squared bishop, no influence on the dark squares, but white does have an extra rook for the black knight. Maybe at some point we'll see the white rooks occupy this open line and break through. No, Magnus doesn't go for this. He retreats, so we might see this on the board. White is about to go one pawn up. Pawn takes pawn, and the position opens up, I think, in Ding's favour. Can Magnus activate his rooks? That is the question. Can he find sufficient counterplay against the white king?
I don't see it. I really don't see it. It's just a
one
check, and that's it. The king steps back. Nothing left.
Unless he tries to bring his rook across and then bring the other rook down to the second rank.
Ooh, but that's so risky.
So risky. For example, let's just ignore everything white's doing and OK, maybe the black rooks can come into the game like this, but let's go back to the position, because this is the second time we've seen this position now.
Oh.
Ding only has 2.5 minutes. If he wants to win, he'll take this pawn. If he wants to draw, he'll just drop his bishop back and attack the black rook.
2 minutes left on the clock for Ding, 14 minutes left for Magnus. And how is Ding when clocks runs down and it's blitz chess? Bullet chess even.
He's good at blitz, but he does panic a little bit more than Magnus. He doesn't play as much online. I don't think he's as quick on the mouse. Over the board blitz, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
We've seen him do well in the tour in blitz as well, but Magnus is maybe another level.
Okay.
So let's go back to the players. Will he drop his bishop back and go for the draw? Or is he going to play pawn takes pawn and go for the win under 2 minutes?
I guess the longer he thinks about it, the more likely he is to go for the drawish.
Yeah.
What do you think, Simon?
Well, he's gone for a draw,
he's
and
gone for it.
I think the tournament situation, I mean, a draw, they both qualify. It's I mean, OK. I mean, I think David would have definitely gone for the win there, no matter what. But I mean, it's kind of sensible as well with 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I would have gone for the win and then lost. so that's why Ding is the world number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practical choice, isn't it? And I think they'll be shaking hands soon. But
in terms of the tournament situation, it makes sense to play it safe. But
he can still go pawn takes pawn. I thought it'd be a draw automatically now, but this is his last shot.
now it is. There we go. Third time we've seen that position. It is a draw.
A draw.